Hey, how my stars doing? It's Adrienne with Starting Point. Today's guest star is State Representative Ms. Gail Finney. Ms. Gail, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you, Adrienne, for inviting me. I'm really excited about this today.
We're very excited too. You're a very, very special guest on the show today.
Oh, thank you, guys. You made me blush.
So, Ms. Finney, how would you explain the role of a state representative to someone who doesn't know?
Well, actually, the simple word to put it is lawmaker. One of the things that we do is, like, after we're elected, what I do is I kind of have a good chance to get out there and meet people and find out what their issues are. And then we introduce legislation into the House of Representatives to try to get a bill passed. For an example, when I got elected in 2009, one of the biggest issues that most people know me for is for introducing medical marijuana bills in Kansas. So I've been introducing them on a regular basis since I became legislator, for the main reason that a lot of people are ill with chronic diseases, and they believe that medical marijuana cannabis relieves their pain or their seizures or their nausea. And so we've been fighting for that for a long time. So that's just one of the bills that I've introduced in the legislature. So a lawmaker's job is not only to listen to your constituents, but also try to get legislation passed on behalf of your constituents. And even if you're not introducing legislation, to support legislations that benefits your community.
So when you say you go out and you meet people, you go out and network with people?
Well, I go to a lot of events. I usually have an event minimum once a day, and I try to reserve Sundays to my family. But I'm always meeting with people, and I get calls and thousands of emails on a regular basis. So people, they connect with you, particularly if they know that you're not afraid to speak up on their behalf, and they know that they can communicate with me. I give my cell phone to everybody, and I've had people call me in the middle of the night. It doesn't matter. I want to listen to them because I believe that's my job.
So with you being a mom and a state representative, and I understand you do have your own business as well, how do you balance all of that?
Oh, it's a constant juggle. But you have to keep in mind, my kids are older than you are.
Are they really?
My baby is 35.
Oh, wow.
Yes, my baby is 35, but I have 2 grown sons and I have 5 grandkids.
Nice.
And my grandbabies are 1 through 16.
Now, are your kids into politics as well?
It's really funny. People expect my children to be in politics, but I've been involved in politics for a long time. And when my kids were little, I used to take them to all of these functions and events. And sad to say, they do not like politics. But they're down to vote and support their mom.
Yes.
If it wasn't for that, they'd probably be like,
Now, because you've been in politics since...
Well, actually, I've been in this office since 2009.
Okay.
I got elected 2008, the same year that President Barack Obama. But I've been involved in the Democratic Party for a long time, and there was one point I was actually involved with the Republican Party way back in like the 80s.
Really?
So I've been around for a while, and I've actually been the vice chair of the Central County Democrat Party, and I've been a precinct woman, and I've ran campaigns, and I've consulted with political campaigns. So I've been around doing this for a long time.
So what made you go from Republican to Democrat?
Well, back then I was younger, but really the turning point is I guess I could say I'm kind of a conservative. I'm very fiscally minded. But one of the things that made me turn was I just thought that their issues regarding women were just too extreme for me.
On the Republican side?
On the Republican side, I just thought, it seemed like they didn't have women in their best interest at the time, and since I'm in the legislature, I really feel like that, we're constantly having women's issue bills, whether it's abortion, whether it's birth control, whether it's child care, and so I just think they're not as considerate as they should. They should be a little more considerate than what they are of women's issues.
I agree. You mentioned earlier that when you go out, that's like your networking opportunity. Is that how you also go about campaigning?
Oh, yes, that's also how I go. Well, the difference is when I'm campaigning, I actually go knocking on people's doors.
Do you?
Oh, yes. I get up there and knock on the doors and talk to people, and so Actually, it's exciting to me. I mean, I really enjoy it. You get a chance to meet people, and they're actually shocked when, a legislator actually comes to their door and wants to talk to them and ask them what their issues are, if there's any concerns, and then to ask them for their vote of support. So they remember that.
Yes, I would definitely remember that. Because even if I wasn't into voting, it would probably encourage me to get out there to vote.
Yeah, so it does help. And like I said, I mean, I've been voted in like an average anywhere from 70 to 90% each time.
Yes, I was going to say you have a strong lead when election season is up. So how are you feeling about this upcoming one?
I feel very confident because I know I've been doing my job. I've always tried to maintain perfect attendance, and I never miss a vote. And I'm always there, and I'm always accessible. And I try to do my best to communicate and get out in the community, and people know who I am.
That's good. What is your business?
I have a company called Marketing One Group. But actually, I've been doing marketing for a long time. I got my bachelor's degree from Wichita State University in marketing. And years back, I used to do huge events, convention management. But Marketing One basically is I consult with political campaigns. I develop their political campaign literature, help them with their website, their social media, and sell them promotional items, and just do consultation on how to get out there and win elections.
I like that. So do you feel with the 84th district livable wages, do you feel like they're fair?
Right now, everybody's trying to live and exist on $7.25 an hour minimum wage. It's very difficult. Most of the people I know, they're balancing 1, 2, 3 part-time jobs just to make ends meet. And so we really need to look at that. Kansas, we have been trying to get into legislation approved to raise our minimum wage, but it hasn't been going very far.
If minimum wage goes up, will cost of living go up?
Well, cost of living is going up anyway. So even if it goes up, people are struggling just to get by at $7.25 an hour. I don't know if you noticed, you're probably so young, but the utilities are going up, rent is going up, food is going up, everything's going up around us. And like our earned income that we used to get and deductions on our tax returns, the deductions are very minimum to zero now. So people are having a much harder time trying to get by. So I think the minimum wage increase would just put them at where they need to be.
I agree.
But really, we need to improve it. It really would help my community particularly a lot.
Yes, I agree. So does the 84th district have a disappropriate, incarceration rate for African American men?
Well, in my district, we have approximately 56% minorities, Hispanic and African Americans. And so, particularly African Americans and Hispanics are disproportionately incarcerated. But you have to keep in mind that when you have problems like racial profiling and discrimination, when people are just driving up and down the street, or what I call walking while black or brown, I mean, you are at more of a propensity to be pulled over. But one of the things I can say with the last few years, probably within the last couple of years, we've got a new police chief. And I think that has helped out in Wichita. So I haven't been receiving as many calls as possible, because when we started getting out there protesting, particularly like when we had officer fatalities in Wichita and across the country, I think law enforcement is much more cognizant and much more careful than they've been. And so before, I used to get calls all the time about people who felt like the law enforcement was harassing them. And I haven't received a call. I bet it's going like over 9 months now.
Wow.
So I think that's good. But I think our nation is more in tune about law enforcement and fatality and abuse. And so I think that we're at a turning point. So, but to answer your question, usually African Americans have a high propensity to be incarcerated, and a lot of us across the United States are working on that. And they do understand that we do need a complete criminal justice reform in the United States and in Kansas. One of the things I wanted to mention also, as far as like juveniles, when we're talking about criminal justice reform, Kansas is right now at the forefront of actually trying to reduce incarceration rate for our juveniles. We just had a big piece of legislation passed, and the governor signed it 7 days ago. Well, it would take those, what I call low-level offenders or non-violent offenders, and not put them in group homes or lock them up in kiddie jails or juvenile custody. And we believe that getting them back into the homes and providing more community services for them, so that they won't be repeat offenders, would make them less apt to be a criminal when they're growing up. And Kansas is like the 7th state in the United States. The Pew Association has come down and worked with us, and I worked on that committee for like 6 months straight every week, and we worked very hard trying to pull together that legislation. So it has passed, it's going into law, and I really think it's going to help out as far as like with our juvenile offenders and getting them on the right path.
That's awesome. You mentioned that you've been on some committees. We know that you are on the Kansas African American Affairs Committee.
Well, not anymore. I used to be on the Kansas African American Affairs Committee. The Kansas African American Affairs Committee, for those who don't know, that organization was created like in the 70s, like either the 70s or the 90s. I can't remember now. But the goal was to be in touch what's happening within the African American community, like issues, and whether it's health, whether it's business, or whether it's youth, anything that concerns African Americans. That is what the commission's goal is. But there's also a Hispanic commission too. A lot of people don't know that, but we have both. But the difference is, one thing it's really important. When this organization was first founded, it was founded by the African American legislators. And the goal was to be able to support us on legislation, and to be there to to have our back. But within the last few years, it has went under the OSC. It used to be a standalone agency. Now it's directly underneath the governor. So we don't really it could be much more effective if it was more of an independent organization like it used to be, because we can't really get up there and talk about the issues that we really want to, get that organization to really be as vocal as they could be, because they're under the discretion of the governor now.
With you being a Democrat, do you feel like it's kind of difficult to operate here in Kansas?
It's difficult, but at the same time, you have to be able to learn how to get some legislation passed. You're always going to have obstacles, even if you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican. It doesn't mean that it's just going to be a sharpshooter. But to give you an example, in Kansas, we have 165 legislators. On the Senate, we have 40 senators. And of those 40 senators, 8 of them are Democrat. Over on the House side, there are 125 representatives. And of the 125, we only have 23 Democrats. So we're at a major disadvantage. But I've been lucky, I shouldn't say lucky, I've been fortunate to be able to get a few pieces of legislation passed. And like I said, one thing I want to back up and say, even though being a Democrat, you may not get your bills passed because you might be outnumbered, but an example of the medicinal marijuana bill. When I first started introducing that bill in 2009, there was a statewide survey that only 49% of Kansans supported medicinal marijuana. And the bill was called the Cannabis Compassionate Care Act. But the last survey that was done in the fall of 2015 showed that 70% of Kansans support medicinal marijuana. So one of the things that you can do that I think I've been very effective at is getting the issues out there to build awareness and acceptance. So that's you're not always getting legislation passed, but at the same time, you are educating the public. So that's very important too.
I agree. Your mission statement states that you want to ensure better education. How do you feel that you've been successful in that so far?
Well, it's like example with the medicinal marijuana. As far as like education, there's more than just education in K through 12 into the school. Education is also involving your constituents on issues and educating them on things that are important. I'll give you another example. There was a bill that just recently passed, and the bill was called the Kansas Abandoned Building Blight Building. And a lot of people, even Democrats, voted for the bill, but I was opposed to that bill. So I got up on the floor and I spoke about it very, hardcore on that bill, because I really thought that bill, what it does, it defines the word abandonment, and what it would do is go out and be able to take people's properties if they haven't if the house has been vacant for 90 days, for example, and if they are 2 years behind on taxes, or if the house has been vacant for 365 days. And I'm concerned that some of my constituents, whether they might end up getting sick or going to jail, and I didn't want them to lose their property, so I spoke out on that. So to me, that's education as well. Mm-hmm. But getting back to like K through 12 and through university colleges, I'm very supportive of making sure that we have enough money in our budgets to support our schools, adequate funding. And Kansas hasn't really been meeting quite the criteria that has been set yet. So, but with us, when I say us, the Democrats, we vote against it each time, you know, the bills that they propose, because we don't think that they're adequately funded, but we just have to keep trying. But of course, definitely I support education, better education, and at the same time, I believe in keeping the constituents informed by being involved in social media, doing events like this, coming out talking to different people. That's important too, letting people know what some of the things are, some of the issues are that are out there, to get their input. And getting back to that bill, I was telling you about that blight bill. So what happened is I started speaking to different organizations about it, and I contacted the governor's office, and I was telling people, because when I was telling people about it, they're like, oh, they didn't realize it did that. They heard about it, but they didn't realize when I broke it down to them, this could be you. You could get sick one day. You could be in a nursing home. You can go to jail, and your house can be vacant for 90 days, and you're already behind on your taxes. And so when you explain it to people like that and put them or give them an example how it affects you on a day-to-day basis, it makes a difference. So what happened is, what ended up happening, people ended up contacting the governor's office and asking the governor to appeal that bill, and he did veto that bill. So that's an example of how getting out there and educating the public on how things actually can affect you and make a difference in your lives.
Because you do those things, do you feel like that's why you have such a strong lead in the elections?
I think that has a lot to do with it. I really believe that has a lot to do with it.
Do you feel like with you doing what you're doing, you're stepping out and you're speaking up for the people, do you feel like you're in your purpose with doing so?
You know, it's so funny. I would like to, if it was my choice, I enjoy what I do, but sometimes it gets kind of overwhelming. And I'd rather just be able to comfortably just kind of lay back and just do my business. But when I look back, people always ask me, how did you get into politics? And I guess I've been running for elections even since I was in middle school and high school. I don't know where it came from. People always ask me where it comes from. I have no idea. No one in my family has done this or even interested in politics, but I think I just have even when I was younger, I always was very protective of my friends and people that I know and the underprivileged and people that I always would stand up for my friends, whether if they were being bullied or something. So I guess that's just part of my personality.
So you've been consistent. So would you say that you've had a paradigm shift since you've been in office? Or are you still kind of like the same person?
I think I'm the same person. The reason I ran the first time, because I really kind of got upset with, I don't know if you know my background. I'm one of those people that has a chronic health condition. I have lupus, and I'm a chronic kidney patient, and I have sickle cell, and I'm probably out, and I have thyroid, so I have a lot of medical issues. Mm-hmm. But I had promised myself, I was even on dialysis for a while. Mm-hmm. I had told the Lord, I said, if I ever get out of off this dialysis machine, my goal is I want to get out there and really fight hard for people that can't speak for themselves. So I feel like I've been blessed, and I'm using that blessing to educate others and try to make a difference.
Wow, that's awesome. So what kind of legacy would you like to leave behind?
I think my legacy is my kids, for one. And I think people that would know me know that I went down fighting. Yes. Fighting for my constituents.
I say you're standing up fighting.
I always put up there, I'm not afraid to stand up and speak out on behalf of my constituents. And one thing that I really stand firm on is I try not to let anyone persuade me to do something I don't want to do. And even if the issues, I'm well known for speaking out on controversial issues, because I feel like that's my job to do that. And if I can't get out there and speak on controversial issues, you probably need to get another representative, because you need people that are strong and confident and not afraid to go to bat for them. So.
Yes. So who has your vote for president and why?
I'm a very strong Bernie Sanders supporter.
Yay, high five.
and let me tell you why. Well, I did get a chance to meet him recently.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because I just really believe that in the United States, of all the industrialized countries, I think it's sad that here we are today, and most of the people that I know, particularly in my district and in my family, they don't have health insurance or have access to health insurance, or they can't afford it. Mm-hmm. And when they get ill, they end up going to the emergency room. I just think that's just tragic. Mm-hmm. And for the people that we have in office, not to negate what President Obama has done, I think that's a good start. But I believe everyone should be able to have access to health care in the United States. Yes. So that's one of my biggest things that I really like about him. And he reminds me of myself, getting out there and speaking on those issues that aren't the norm or that's comfortable.
I can see that.
I think you're not doing your job if people are just too comfortable with you. Mm-hmm. And they know you and they respect you more when they know that you're out there fighting and you're speaking up on those issues and making a difference in people's lives. So I think he's a stand-up, and I really wish that we had someone like him in office. And a lot of people say that, his goals are just way over and above. Well, heck, we need to do something different, because what we're doing is not working.
Right.
You have people that are dying because they don't have health care. Sure. You have people that have an abundance of debt from school because they can't afford to go to school. You have people working $7.25 an hour, having to work multiple jobs just to make ends meet. You have mothers that are trying to debate whether or not they should go to work or not just because they can't afford health care.
Right.
And you have people that are hungry in our country. And we have mass incarceration of a lot of people. And I think Bernie does lend a good voice to that.
Yes, he does.
And I believe that he will fight for reforming criminal justice system here in the United States. So I'm a Bernie. I feel the burn.
Me, you both. So how can someone get involved with helping your campaign?
Well, like with me, June 1st is the deadline for people that want to run. In August, the first Tuesday in August the 2nd, and November the 8th are the election days. And so I would love to have someone come out there and go door to door with me. Hey. You know, I believe in going door to door. I think that's important, and I do it every time it's election time. I get out there. Okay. So if anyone wants to do that, and they can always make a donation to Finney for Kansas.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I'm like Bernie. Hey, was it $1, $2, $3, $27 average? I'll take all of the above. So
that's nice.
It does make a difference when you have people that are volunteering and contributing to your campaign.
So who would you like to see on the show?
On this show?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me see, who would be interesting? Do you know DeJuan Wash?
No, ma'am.
DeJuan Wash, he's the marketing, communications person for Sunflower Community Action. I really love that organization.
Okay, I've heard of the Community Action.
Yeah, Sunflower Community Action. I think they're very good at getting out there and getting people informed of the issues. Mm-hmm. When we had the Trayvon Martin, DeJuan, he was from California. He came to Wichita after Trayvon Martin got killed, and he was out there protesting. I'm right there with him, got my sign too, justice for Trayvon. And so they're very good at getting out there at the forefront of issues like that. And we just recently, with them, they have what they call the Fed Up campaign. I actually went to Wyoming with them. What's the name of? I can't think of the city. Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where we went there and actually protested up there against the Federal Reserve. So they do things like that, and they actually go door to door, informing people with some of those issues that is going on. So he'll be a good person to have on here, DeJuan Wash. And I'm trying to think who else would be good. What I'll do, I'll provide you a list, because I could probably think of several people. It just kind of really depends on what focus you're trying to get.
We're everywhere. We do anyone. Like we've had music artists, clothing designers. We're hoping to get some authors on here. So this is a really huge blessing for us because we haven't had anyone in politics yet.
Oh,
so.
really? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, and I would think Dewan Washerby, I think he would really give you a really good interview, and I think you guys will learn a lot. And I think people would really we need to listen to what he has to say.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm trying to think on the business side, you should interview Willie Kendricks.
Okay.
Willie Kendricks, he's the Popeye franchise owner here.
Yes.
He would be really good. Yes.
Yes.
And he's a kidney transplant patient too.
Okay.
So he would be good as far as business and nonprofits. And you should interview, don't be afraid to go up and get someone from the city council, get the school board, call the superintendent.
Yes, ma'am.
The only thing they can do is say no.
That's true.
That's true. Just say, Representative Gail Finney said that
I was going to say that too. I was going to say that.
Issues that's happening with USD 259.
Miss Finney, see, we here because I was going to say, State Representative Gail Finney said that I can call you and you was going to say yes. And you're going to do this show.
You should do that. You should do that. Another, I call him a very outgoing and very knowledgeable young man is Brian Black.
Okay.
You know Brian Black? He was the communications director for Spirit for a while.
Okay.
And he can really shed a lot on things that are going on in Wichita. I mean, he's just really gregarious, and everybody loves Brian. So I'm trying to think who else. And you should have Ebony Clemens from Westar. She is their community person.
Okay.
And they'll come talk to you about things that they're doing, try to promote the community and get involved. So I can give you a long list of people, but that'll be a good start.
Yes, ma'am. And we will take that list as soon as you have it ready. Take that. Okay. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in to Starting Point and watching this awesome show. Remember to vote. November the 8th.
For a general election and August the 2nd for the primary election.
Yes, and June 1st is the deadline.
If you want to run for office.
If you want to run for
I'm
office.
always trying to encourage people to run for office.
Okay.
Because we need more younger people getting involved, because I'm getting older and several people, and we need people to get out there, like Bernie says, hey, we got to have a new revolution, and that's only what will happen if people get out there and get involved in the process.
Okay. So if you were ever wondering or interested in wanting to run for any type of legislation, we can provide you with the number at the end of the show for Ms. Finney so you can get in touch if you have any questions. Thank you so much for